Hello everyone, my name is Wayne and my Disney Infinity ID is Sumerian. Welcome to Fun with Logic, where we will be going into the toy box and doing some more advanced connections of the Creativa toys, just to see what we can make Disney Infinity 2.0 do for us. In this tutorial, we will be controlling two logic chains in a way that the output of one will always affect both logic chains. This tutorial is going to be based on us using two buttons to move this bridge right here left or right depending on the button you push. One button will be always left, one button will always be right. And you're going to see that I've already put some replayers in. This one is actually currently playing. All these replayers have is an exact duplicate of that bridge in a slightly different location for each replayer. You also see I put a logic gate down for each of these replayers. This was just to save some time. All these logic gates are doing is, if the logic gate opens, it is clearing the replayer. If it closes, it's going to play the replayer. So all these four logic gates right now, 1, 2, 3, 4, are open, while this one in the middle right now is closed because that bridge is open, or that bridge is played right now. I've also done the logic where any logic gate that closes is going to force the logic gate directly to its left and directly to its right to be open. And all that does is, say we close this logic gate, forcing that one and that one open, make sure that we clear the old picture of the bridge here as we play the new picture of the bridge right here. And that's all I've done so far. I haven't put in the logic to actually move the bridge yet. So, what we are going to do to move this bridge is we're going to use two different logic chains. This one is going to be our left logic, and this one is going to be our right logic. And we're also going to need two buttons. When you push the one button, the bridge always goes left. If you push the other button, the bridge goes right. And these two logic chains are actually going to know basically where the bridge is at all times. So that, say you go one left, two right, the bridge is going to follow you no matter what you do. So, all this button is going to be is an input into our left logic. And all this button is going to be is an input into our right logic. Okay, now this is a little bit hard to explain. What I'm basically going to do is, I know that there's 5 logic gates up here that we have to control, and like I've said before, when you're doing a logic chain, you need one less than the total number of outputs you require. So using 3 logic gates, I only have 4 outputs I can use, while there's 5 logic gates here. But since this one is always going left, when you're going left, there is no way you can reach the farthest right point. So you don't need to program that logic into your left button. You can't reach it. And same thing from your right. There is absolutely no way when you're going right that you can reach this far left button. So each of these logic chains is only going to be looking at 4 of these possible positions. Alright, so I'm going to explain as I'm going here. I'm going to tie the output of the first gate to the input of the second, and I'm going to tie the output of that gate to the input of the third, and the output of third gate is going to tell this guy, this logic gate, we're going to call them far left, left, middle, right, far right. So what I'm doing is I'm telling left, if all the logic gates are open and you push this left button, close this logic gate. And the reason for that is this game is going to start and you're going to default have the bridge in the middle. When you first push the left button, the next position you would get to from the middle is going to be left, this left position. Therefore, when all these logic gates are open, we are in default mode, and so the bridge is in the middle. So if you push the left button, go to this position, go to the first left position. Alright, and so we're going to say that if that was output, if input blocked on that one, we will close this guy. We'll also say, since the output is already being used to pass to the third logic gate, we're going to use input blocked is going to be for the middle position, and input blocked of our very first logic gate is going to be for our right position. Now, as I was saying, there is no way when you push the left button that you could possibly reach far right, so we don't need a logic point to it. Now, we're going to do the same thing, but in the opposite direction for our right logic. We're going to say the output of the first logic is going to go into the input of the second, and the output of the second logic is going to go into the input of the third logic gate. And we're going to do the exact opposite thing. When everything's open, the bridge is at the middle. So if we push the right button when everything is default, we want the bridge to move here. So output of this gate is going to close this logic gate, which will erase the bridge from here and move the bridge over here. Now we're also going to say the input blocked is going to be the far right. So if we close that last one, we're going to have the bridge all the way over here, and middle logic gate's input blocked is going to be closing the middle, and the first one is logic blocked is going to be, or input blocked is going to be closing the left. Same thing, when you're pushing the right button, there's absolutely no way you can reach this logic gate because it's the far left, so we aren't worried about that on our right button pushes. Okay, so now we're going to actually have to tell each of these logic chains if the other button was pushed. So, like right now, if all these logic gates are open, default for pushing left is going to be close this logic gate. But what if I hit right twice first before I hit left once? If I don't do anything, the bridge will go right once, right twice, and then all the way over to here. We don't want that. That doesn't look right. That's not how we want this bridge to work. So we are actually going to control both logic chains at the same time from these logic gates at the top. So we're going to start at the far right here, and if we're at the far right, I'll explain here, and it closes, we want to close the first left logic gate. Now the reason we want to do that is because when this logic gate closes, we aren't telling these logic chains where the bridge is. What we're doing is we're telling these logic chains, if your button is pushed, this is where I want the bridge to appear next time. And I don't know if you recall or not, but we tied the input block of this very first logic gate to this right position. So by closing this, we've now told it if you push the left button, the bridge is going to appear here. Now we don't have to tie anything to our right logic because we're at the farthest right possible point. There is no, the button here really doesn't need to do anything else. If you are at the farthest right point, push that button to your heart's content, it'll probably just try to replay the bridge, which no big deal. So, where we're going to get into some more interesting stuff is at this right point here. This right point here, what we're going to say is, if you close, I want this last logic gate to close, and I want to make sure this logic gate right here is open to pass the signal through. I don't need to say anything about this logic gate because the way the game is working here is the button push only moves one space at a time. And once you've got to this point with your right button, this logic gate is already open. I don't need to double check that it's opened. I know it has to be open whether or not you're coming from the left or the right. That logic gate is still going to be open. So I've now told this guy, or the right logic, that you're going to be, I already know you're open, ensure he's open, and ensure he's closed, so that if you're at this point, when you push the right button, because the input block from this last guy goes to the far right, now that's where you pointed. So if you're at this right position and you push the right button now, I've just set the logic of this right logic circuit, or logic chain, to point at this logic. Now I have to tell the left logic circuit that if you hit the left button, point to this guy, or send an input block and close this logic gate because he is left of the current point I am at. So we say if we're closed, we're going to ensure that this first logic gate is open, because if we've gotten to there, it might have been from this point. And if you were at this point, that first one, if you remember, the only piece of logic we put in this point was to close that first logic gate. So we need to make sure it's open, and we need to make sure when you close that the second logic gate is closed. So the input's coming in, going out the output, and I don't know if you recall, but when we tied these logics together, this middle logic was tied to this middle logic closing. So now we've told it, so if this guy closes, we've now programmed the right circuit to point here and the left circuit to point here. And we're going to keep doing that down the chain. I might skip some of it if it's getting tedious, but when he closes, the middle one, we want everything to be default. Because if you remember, we've got everything set so that if all the logic gates are open, it knows you're in the middle position, and left gate is going to be pointed, or the left button is pointed at this guy, and the right button is pointed at this guy. That's how we set our logic up. So when he closes, we want left 2 and left 3 to be open. And when we're at the middle here, we know that neither of the first logic gates are closed because we're far enough away from them that they've already been forced open. So the only things we're ensuring are open are the last 2 logic gates in each of our chains. And that's because we set them up by default, like I said, to know that we're in the middle. So now the left, when they're all open, is pointing at this logic gate, which is to the left of the middle, and the right, when they're all open, is pointing at this logic gate, which is to the right of the middle. So we're never actually telling our logic chains where the bridge is. We're just telling them what bridge to activate next if your button is pushed. Alright, so we finished the middle. Now we're going to move on to the first left one. Actually, I'll do the far left one first, just so you see it's exactly like the far right one was. When it closes, there's only one thing I have to do, because when I've reached this far left, the left circuit doesn't matter. I can't go any farther left. I don't care if you push that button forever, nothing's really going to happen. So the only direction you can really go from this far left is to go right. So all I'm doing is telling this first logic gate on the right series, and you probably don't remember, but this first one's input block is pointed this guy right here. So from this gate, when he's closed, The only circuit that cares is the right one, which is now told that if your button gets hit, activate or close this gate. Alright, we're almost done. Now we tell this guy, and I'm not doing this off memory. I have written this down beforehand, which logic gate has to close and open what. I actually write these little diagrams out first for more complicated chains like this. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. Usually they do, but sometimes they don't. So, off that gate, I just am going to put this in because I know what it's supposed to be, because if he closes, close this guy so that he now points at him. And if he closes, we want this first one to be open. Remember how we just closed it from over here, and we're going right. So we want to force that one to open. And we want to force the middle one to close, because that's what's actually pointed at the middle on the right circuit. Alright, so it looks like we've put in all the logic that we need to make this work. So if I push the left button, this bridge should go left. If I push the right button, the bridge should go right. And because of the way we tied the logic together, each button and each logic chain here should always know, if I push you, what is the next replayer or logic gate up at the top here to close in order to mimic moving in that direction. So if I push the right button here, the bridge went right. If I push it again, the bridge went right again. If I push it again, it's not going to do anything because it's as far right as it can be. Push this one, bridge moves left, bridge moves left, bridge moves left, bridge moves right, bridge. Oh. Bridge moves right, bridge isn't moving right. Alright, we're back. Apparently I messed up. It was just in here, I didn't have that logic gate closing, opening this middle logic gate like it was supposed to. The logic somehow disappeared, or maybe you caught me missing to put that in. But now that we have reopened that like it's supposed to be, this bridge will go wherever we want as we're pushing the buttons, and gives it the illusion that we are remembering exactly where the bridge is when we're not. We're just, each button knows which place to put the bridge to next if it's pushed. It doesn't actually know where the bridge is. And there we go. It's a great way to make puzzles. You could have a whole bunch of bridges the whole way across that are all moving at the same time. You could try to do a Pong type game. You could do all sorts of things with this type of logic. And it just kind of looks cool that you're moving around the terrain by the push of a button. So, this is my tutorial on controlling multiple logic chains to get a circumstance like this to work and to look kind of cool. This is how we move a bridge. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Have yourself a wonderful day.